Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Draconian, Under a Godless Veil, out October 30th on Napalm Records. The album has 10 tracks, 62 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album. This album has an incredible duality of approach. Your perception of this record depends on where you are and what you're looking at. If you're taking a look at the big picture of the record, the album feels very slow, very methodic, really not dynamic at all. And it has this really intense melancholic atmosphere that blankets all 10 tracks and it makes you feel like you're moving through quicksand or trying to move through quicksand as you're progressing through the record. When you look at the individual songs, you get a different picture. More dynamic, more fluid, a lot of changes musically and vocally. The construction of the tracks are very interesting, very dynamic as well, really changing from song to song, not duplicating the same formula twice, trying different aspects, trying different looks to make the songs as lively as possible when it comes to a Draconian record. But those dynamic mechanisms that the tracks have built within themselves really give life, really give energy, and makes this record a lot more engaging for the listener. So you have two different aspects, you have two different looks here. You have one that feels like it's moving in one direction and another that moves in a complete and opposite direction. But the two need to coexist for this album to be as strong as it is. If the overall feel that the record gives you when you listen to it was the same as how the individual songs are constructed and built, the album would become monotonous, would become overbearing, and you would walk away from this record and perhaps never go back to it again because there would be no element that would draw you back into the fold. Having one feel and one look for the overall style and approach of the record and have a much different, more dynamic fervor or fire, amber building from the inside really makes the record a lot more engaging for the listener and allows the listener to lose himself in the overall atmosphere that the record has, but still feel like it's moving, like you're moving through it at a much better pace with a lot different things to look at and assimilate as you go through all 10 tracks. So this album only works because of this duality. If it doesn't have this duality, the album is not the same. It starts to feel, like I said, overbearing. When you look deeper into this record, I believe you have to break down the album into overall sound and atmosphere. These are two key ingredients for a Draconian album, and they're definitely present on this record. Starting off with the atmosphere, I really felt that they created this incredible, somber, melancholic, peaceful, and insightful atmosphere that just carries you from song to song. And while the songs have different dynamics, and while the songs are constructed in a different way, they all have a very similar output as far as how you feel towards the tracks, and then obviously how you feel towards the record. Now, the sound on the album really drives the atmosphere, but the atmosphere also drives the sound. So the duality of aspects is not just built into the overall structure of the record and how the songs are put together, but it's also built in the output of those songs and the output of the album itself. I love the sound and I love how it pushes that incredible atmosphere that the record has. Deeper within the sound, you have to talk about the guitars and you have to talk about the drums. I love the guitars on this record. Phenomenal presence, phenomenal sound, and some songs more than others, but always understanding what that track needed and providing the emotional delivery of the perfect sound to really enhance the beauty of the track, enhance the beauty of the lyrics, enhance the beauty of the vocal performance and the song itself. There are some incredible solos on this record that don't go unnoticed because they really add life, they really add presence, and they bring some light into an overall very dark sounding record. The drums play a very important role, in my opinion, as far as this album is concerned. They give a lot of consistency to the record. They don't always sound the same, and they're not always approached in the same fashion, but the consistency of the approach is equal from the first song to the last song. Once again, being there to serve the track, not being there just to add heaviness or to add power or to start to push the song forward, to try to be the driver of the track. There are very few tracks on this album that are driven by the sound. The overall sound creates the atmosphere, but it's really the vocals that are sitting on the driver's seat for most part of this record. And speaking of vocals, we have to talk about Heike. Her voice, her vocal performance is outstanding. This is her breakout album. I know this is not her first album with the band, but this is her breakout album. She has an incredible, outstanding performance on this record. You're still gonna get the harsh, powerful, deep growls from Anders on the album. They're still there, and they're gonna be there in spades throughout most of the tracks. I'm not going to say all of the tracks, because there's some tracks where he went more with a different approach, more of a spoken word narrator style, so you're not always going to get growls and harsh vocals from him. You're going to get a little bit of diversity out of his approach, but to me, this is an album that she gets to shine. They gave her the keys to the castle, and she ran with them. And she absolutely demolished this record with an incredible performance for the ages. She just picked each and every single track and delivered exactly what the song called for. From an atmospheric perspective, from a vocal perspective, from an emotional perspective, those lyrics could have not been more present and more in the forefront with anybody else singing them. She just absolutely blew the lid off of this album. Incredible performance from the beginning all the way to the end. She has such an important role on how this album sounds and how this album feels. I felt like Anders kind of took not a step back, but a sidestep, and just really, like I said, gave her the keys to the castle. Overall, this is an incredible Draconian album. This is a Draconian album. All the boxes are checked. When you go into an album from this band, there are certain perceptions that you have and expectations that you have coming into the album. And like I said, all boxes are checked. They deliver an incredible masterpiece vocally and musically and atmospherically. This is just an incredible album by an incredible band. As far as songs are concerned, I want to mention 3 tracks, and I want to start off with Burial Fields, a stripped, melancholic wasteland of a track, and Heike's vocals come in as a morning breeze. They just kind of fly in, every so subtle, and that's how the track feels from the beginning almost all the way to the end. It really elevates the track. Her voice really brings this track to life. She infuses oxygen into the small burning fire that this track has. The atmosphere of this song is palpable. You could feel it. You could cut it with a knife. And her voice almost numbs you to it. It always makes you feel like you're not even there. It's almost an out-of-body experience when you're listening to this track, and how the vocals come across and how they merge with the overall atmosphere that the track has. The spoken word by Anders towards the end of the track is the perfect closing. It changes the song. It changes the dynamic of the song. It gives you a different look. The song suddenly feels completely different. And it needed that. Otherwise, it would be a little bit too stretched out, and it would have become a little bit forgetful afterwards, because there would have been nothing there to change your eyesight and to make you realize how impactful the first 2/3 of the song were. You needed that change in the last third in order for you to realize how important those first 2/3 were. So you need one in order to balance out the other. Claw Marks on the Throne, one of my favorite songs on the album. Outside of the singles, this is my favorite track on the record. It has a slow build up to it, but you feel like there's this intensity that's about to rise, that's brewing almost. There's a little bit of a spoken word narrator, and I felt like that added a very interesting element to the track. It gives a sense of a better storytelling approach for this song and for what the lyrics have to offer. That piece there is very important for the overall aspect that this song has. Not necessarily from a musical perspective, but definitely from a lyrical perspective. That narrator piece adds so much life. It adds so much energy. It almost brings everything to life. So it's very important to have it there, and I really enjoy that piece because it also felt a little bit darker at times in terms of how it was delivered. But Heike's vocals are very methodic. She moves the track, she tries to move the track, and she has the perfect balance in how she merges her voice with the overall atmosphere and sound that this song has. At the midway point of the track, the song bursts. It explodes. They open Pandora's box, and the lid was never put back on again. I think even if they try to put the lid back on again, it would be impossible for revert back to how the song sounded up until that point. Because once that happens, the song is a completely different track. It becomes heavier, it becomes more driven. The guitars and the drums have a lot more force, and they start to push more where they want this song to go. The guitar solo that's in this track is just incredible. I love it. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite guitar solo, but it's definitely one of my favorites on the album. But it felt perfectly in where it was and how it sounded, and with the overall dynamic that the song had at that specific point. I love the track. It just has a lot of intensity from that point on. It has a lot of heaviness, and it just pushes it all the way to the end. Once that lid comes off at the midway point, this song is never looking back. Last but not least, Night Visitor. This is the shortest track on the album, but it's a very consistent track from top to bottom. It really builds upon what Burial Fields delivered. I felt that they took a lot of the same dynamics, a lot of the same track construction, and a lot of the same ideas out of Burial Fields. They moved it into Night Visitor, but this song becomes more of a doom ballad. It delivers everything that Burial Fields delivered, but with a little bit of a cherry on top, if you will. Heike dominates this song once again. She really pushes this song forward. She's really the motor behind this track and where this song is gonna go. But the song stays very consistent musically and vocally from beginning all the way to the end. The guitars have a little bit of bite, not too much, but they add enough presence, they add enough heaviness to really make the song feel a little bit more robust, to have a little bit more volume, to feel a little bit bigger, definitely bigger than Burial Fields did. So I really like how this song is constructed and how they took something that was used earlier in the record and they just built upon it on this track. The guitar solo here is the best of the record. Beautiful guitar solo, incredibly delivered, magnificent. It was almost like you're in a dark room and somebody opened the window and the sun all came in all at once, and you just get hit in the face with so much brightness, with so much light. The guitar solo is just incredible. The energy that it gives to a song that doesn't have a lot of energy up until that point is just incredible. It really is. How they constructed and then how they delivered it, outstanding. But like I said, overall, I really felt like this was just a really well-crafted doom ballad that delivers on all accounts. This is it. Draconian, Under a Godless Veil, out October 30th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band. On the singles, use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.